Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Back to 12 podcast. Another live video this week. We already did one regarding Micah Hudson. We'll do another. Let the chat build a little bit as well in here. And we've already got some people trying to watch and everything. Slowly build it up. Go share it on social media. I just tweeted it out right now. So be sure to go share that. We'll talk about Micah Hudson. We'll talk about a couple of other prospects that 24/7 says Texas Tech is in a very good spot for, one of their national recruiters. We'll also discuss Joey McGuire, and he had an interview with JD Pinkle. For those that don't know who JD Pinkle is, he's actually got a podcast on 3, the recruiting site over there. Does daily videos and stuff on YouTube, really good stuff, and actually spent some time with Joey McGuire at Baylor. So really cool story there. So we'll discuss all that and more. Probably going to be live here for the next 30 minutes or so. It is NBA draft night, so want to hang out with some of the fellows and watch that. But let's get the chat going, start answering, and, well, submitting some questions, I guess, is better to say that. Let me know where y'all are listening from. Ask some questions, so on and so forth. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button. For more Texas Tech videos all year round. We're giving you Texas Tech men's basketball videos, Texas Tech football videos, and everything in between as well. We'll actually have a video out tomorrow that's talking about a potential Texas Tech men's basketball target in the portal. So you're going to be wanting to stay tuned to that. We'll also have some more videos and a surprise guest next week, or the week after, I should say. He's on vacation next week, is the guest. But we'll have a guest next week, the week after next. My gosh, get it right, RC. The middle or the start of July, excuse me. There we go. We'll have a former Texas Tech men's basketball player on there. And you might have seen him pretty recently when it comes to, the TBT. There you go. This from T Ferg 06. Let's get it live. We're live. Here we go. We got 32 people in here. Again, be sure to like the video, share it over on Twitter, and I'll give you a shout out if you tag me. You see the handle right there at RCMB323. This from Michael. I know this isn't tech, but if the Mavs keep their 10th pick, who would you like to see them pick? I'm telling you right now, if they pick Hendricks or Whitmore, I am going to act reckless on Twitter tonight, but I fully expect them to trade back or trade the pick, to be totally honest with you. That's kind of how I feel about it. This from Roy. Let's go. How high a percentage chance is that crystal ball usually right? That was just predicted for Micah Hudson. Yep, that's a good question. I got you covered on that front. So for those that don't know what a crystal ball prediction is, it's 24/7 there and their national guys, some of their local guys. For example, Jarrett Johnson for Texas Tech, sometimes put in their predictions for certain players. And you look at this, and for example, the two guys that put in their predictions for Micah Hudson, one is Mike Roach, who is a national analyst for 24/7. He's right 85% of the time when he puts in a prediction. Now, if you look at Steve Wiltfong, who also put in his prediction, he's right 91.5% of the time. So pretty solid stuff there when it's all said and done. And I mean, it's one of those deals where, again, there's probably some room for error. But you think about kind of what we're doing here, right? In terms of this process and everything when it comes down to Texas Tech and having this prediction for Micah Hudson. Is it going to be right? I mean, there's a potential that it's wrong, right? But also these guys are right 91% of the time and then 85% of the time. And so looking at this is kind of what we're at right now. And also I'll have a couple of names that Steve Wiltfong also mentioned that Texas Tech is in a good position to land as well. But those two guys put in their predictions. And the predictions had it at a 6 and a 7. And for those that don't know, it's weighted 1 out of 10. But again, right, 85 and 91% of the time. And the thing is these guys aren't the only ones that are feeling this way. You've got guys that cover UT on a daily basis feeling this way. You've got guys around Texas Tech that cover this on a daily basis, such as myself, and even more in depth when it comes to the recruiting guys over at Rivals and 24/7 that feel this way. And I've even talked to some of the coaches that feel they're in a very good spot, and rightfully so, because they are, right? It's interesting to see it from the national standpoint, though, and some of the things that are going the Red Raiders' way. Now, this isn't going the Red Raiders' way per se, but Wilt Fong also mentioned that Texas Tech is in a good spot to potentially land Peyton Morgan, a 4-star DB, and then also Devontae Carter as well, another high-ranked DB as well. So, again, nothing official on both of those fronts, but it is cool to hear that Texas Tech is in a good spot for those guys. Now, you see the bottom line below. I asked you guys on a previous video to comment this, just MH. I want you guys to do it in the chat as well. Just comment MH if you think Texas Tech will land Micah Hudson and his commitment. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Let's see. What's the chance Coach McGuire wins Coach of the Year award? In the Big 12, I mean, I think there's a solid chance. I think you have a solid chance if you're Joey McGuire to do that. Now, obviously, expectations are high for Texas Tech. You're going to see some of those things in terms of the preseason awards and everything like that go out here in the not too distant future, with Big 12 Media Day being in July. I believe the middle of July. I want to say July 17th, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, I think he has a solid chance. I think Texas Tech is probably going to be picked somewhere in the top 5. I'd probably put him at 4 if I'm being honest right now. But yeah, they have a solid chance. He has a solid chance at that for sure. But let's run through this before we get into y'all's questions. I want to make sure I answer as many questions as possible. Leave about 15 minutes to answer some questions. Before I do that, let me send a quick text message. All right, we're good to go on that front. Let me do this. Jump into the whole Micah Hudson stuff. Let's do that first and foremost, because I've already went over Mike Roach and Steve Wiltfong, how they've put in their crystal ball predictions over at 24/7. Again, Mike Roach had a confidence of 6, or Steve Wiltfong had a confidence of 6. Mike Roach had a confidence of 7. And this is going with the trend that we've seen over the past couple of days with Micah Hudson. When it comes down to it, I think Texas Tech is in the best spot they possibly can be right now to land the commitment of Micah Hudson. I've said this on other videos as well, and I want to reiterate it right now. Just because Micah Hudson commits to Texas Tech right now in June or July, whenever he does it, does not mean that he will sign his national letter of intent with Texas Tech. It would help Texas Tech, no doubt about it. But I feel that this recruitment will go down to the final minute of National Signing Day in terms of the 11th hour and 59th minute, right? I truly feel that way, if you ask me. But I think, too, there's a bunch of things you can look at when it comes to Micah Hudson, and you don't have to like it, but it is what it is. I personally enjoy what he's doing when it comes down to the social media trolling, I guess is probably it. For those that don't know, he's apparently done this before where he's deactivated his Twitter, and now he's done that again. But this is no surprise. He's a guy that does things his own way. He's deactivated his Twitter now, taken every post and his profile picture off of Instagram. But he is enjoying trolling both fan bases, and good for him. Honestly, doing the recruitment his way. I'm all about it. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me any kind of way. But I do think it's interesting to see that, right? And I know a lot of fans aren't going to like that, and that's fine, whatever. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. But he's going to do his recruitment his own way. And that's something that's super interesting to me, because I think that there's a tremendous domino effect when it comes to Micah Hudson and Texas Tech in their recruiting. If you land Micah Hudson, I think you probably land a guy like Peyton Morgan, a 4-star DB. Him and him, they're really close friends, right? You got Devontae Carter. I think you probably land him as well. The trickle-down effect of a commitment from Micah Hudson is great for Texas Tech. In fact, I think if you get a commitment from Micah Hudson, I mean, we're probably talking about a top 15, top 12 class, right? When it comes down to it for Texas Tech. And that's huge for the Red Raiders because obviously that would be the highest rated class that Texas Tech has ever had. And it would happen in year 2 of Joey McGuire, right? So you're just getting things started. And it's interesting to me in a lot of fronts because recruiting is such a fickle game. I think we all know that. A kid can change his mind at any time. And shoot, everybody listening here, they were 18 once, and Lord knows we all changed our mind a lot. But I think Texas Tech has done this the right way in terms of the process, and it's paying dividends right now. 24/7 talked about it earlier. JD, or not 24/7, excuse me, on 3, JD Pinkle talked about it, where you hear about these relationships, right, all the time from Texas Tech, and that's what they're built on, right? It's cheesy to a lot of people from the outside, but when it comes down to it, that's what this business is built on, right? Who cares about the logo? A lot of kids don't care about the logo on their helmet most of the time in terms of where they're going to go to school. They care about the guys that they're spending day in and day out with, the guys that they're going to war with on the gridiron, the guys that are coaching them, whatever it may be, right? Like that's what they really truly care about. And then they obviously start caring about the school as well. But that's really what this comes down to. And really, Brian Nance, James Blanchard, all those guys in the recruiting department for Texas Tech have done a phenomenal job when it's all said and done. And I think Texas Tech, as of right now, on Thursday, June 22nd, when we're having this live on the channel, Texas Tech should be the favorite to land Micah Hudson. And that's not me saying that because of the national recruiting stuff or anything like that. Those guys coming in, I think that's where we're at right now. But again, just because you're the favorite right now does not mean it's a done deal. You still got to get that national letter of intent signed and get them on campus, presumably next January as a spring enrollee, right? So there's a lot of work to be done. I think this is going to come down to the 11th hour and 59th minute, but make no mistake about it. Do not listen to anybody that says otherwise. Texas Tech is firmly in the mix right now for a multitude of reasons, whether that's because of the relationships they built within the coaching staff with Micah Hudson, his relationship with Bradley, his relationship with multiple other guys in this recruiting class, whatever it may be. Texas Tech is in a great spot to land the highest rated recruit in program history in Micah Hudson, a top 10 player in this class, and arguably the best player in the state of Texas in this cycle, right? That's how good Micah Hudson is. He would be an instant impact player and make him and Jerron Bradley the best duo of wide receivers in the Big 12 from the moment he steps foot on a field, right? And oh, by the way, they'd have Baron Morton presumably throwing them the football as well. So really good stuff right there. I'll have a couple of links in the description below later on in terms of if you guys want to go check out a video that 24/7 put out earlier today. Really, really good stuff on their part. So just a lot of good stuff when it comes to Micah Hudson and Texas Tech right now. A lot of good info going around on the recruiting front. But I want y'all to like the video real quick, share it on social media. I'll give you a shout out on here. Let me go check my mentions real quick. I haven't checked my notifications in a minute in terms of the shout outs and whatnot. But go over there, give me a shout out, retweet my tweet right now in terms of me going live. And then also like the video and share it with your fellow Texas Tech fans and everything like that. And if you haven't already, I'm giving you daily videos here on Texas Tech men's basketball and football. So hit that subscribe button. I think we can get to 8,100 subs by the time this live is done. I think we were 19 away. Hit that sub button, and I'll keep you updated on how many we've got right now. We're a little ways away, but you've got this. We got this right now. All right. I'll answer y'all's questions, get them in here and everything like that, and we'll start answering everything we've got. All right, let's see. We got some people in here from we got Houston, we've got Oklahoma. Where else we've got? We've got Corpus Christi. We've also got I saw somebody in here from Kentucky earlier, I think. Yeah, enjoy the podcast, listening and watching in Kentucky. Appreciate it, Mark. This from Dave Patrick. No, we won't get MH. Texas or another school will. Well, there you go. People got to be people can have opinions and stuff right now. I think Texas Tech is clearly the favorite right now. Doesn't mean, again, that they'll actually get him, but that's what it is. Wayne answered that question earlier. This from Roy, act reckless anyway. I promise you, I will, Roy. This from Corey. Do you think they will win the Big 12 conference this upcoming year? No, I don't think I'm going to pick them to do that, but I do think they are one of the teams that could win it. I think the Red Raiders are. I think they legitimately have a chance to do it. Now, when it comes to winning a conference, a lot of things have to go your way. There's a luck aspect to it. I think everybody realizes that. But yeah, I think that that's one thing that we haven't been able to say about Texas Tech football in a while and not sound like a homer, right? Like realistically, this team has a chance to win the Big 12. They have 17 returning starters from both sides of the football. You got, I believe, 9 on offense and then 10 on offense, excuse me, because Taj Brooks actually had more carries than Sirajic Thompson, played more snaps, I should say, last year. And then you've got 7 on defense. So you have a lot of guys coming back. And really, for me, what this comes down to is I think your offensive line is going to be vastly improved with 2 guys in Cole Spencer and Rusty Stats that really solidify it for you. From left to right, you're going to go Monroe Mills, Cole Spencer, Rusty Stats, Dennis Wilburn, and then Caleb Rogers. I think Caleb Rogers is a better right tackle. I think Monroe Mills is a better left tackle. I like that switch. I think Dennis Wilburn naturally switching back to his natural position at right guard, big for Texas Tech. And then you get a guy in Rusty Stats that was an All-American, right? When it comes down to it, or Cole Spencer was an All-American, excuse me. And then Rusty Stats is one of the best centers from this past cycle in terms of the portal. And he knows how to really call the offense out and read the defense in a Zach Kitley scheme because he did it at Western Kentucky. So I think Texas Tech has a solid chance to do it. But when it comes down to it, I think there's probably 4 teams, maybe 5 teams, and Texas Tech is legitimately one of them to win the Big 12. I think right now, my favorite would be Kansas State. Personally, I think Kansas State is just an absolute juggernaut when it comes down to it. Obviously, you think about, hey, Texas is probably going to be up there. Oklahoma, just from a talent perspective, obviously talent on paper doesn't win. Look at what Texas has done in terms of them being back, quote unquote. Oklahoma, I think, just has to be better, really. Texas Tech brings a lot of guys back, and then I'm interested to see what TCU does and maybe Baylor, right? I'm never going to count out Dave Aranda, and obviously what Dykes did last year in his first year in Fort Worth was really impressive. Just interested kind of to see what the quarterback position looks like. So, yeah, I think Texas Tech has a legitimate shot, but I would not predict them to win it, if that makes any sense, Corey. This from Max. How do you think Micah will be in a Zach Kitley offense, an All-American? He'd be an All-American. There's no way he's better than Crabtree, just because, again, modern college football and the changes of it. But he would go down in terms of the ceiling of what Micah Hudson is in a Zach Kitley offense is the second best wide receiver ever to wear the scarlet and black. That's the ceiling. And worst case scenario, I think he's like a 4th round pick whenever he leaves Tech. Like, truly, I think that's worst case scenario. Just because when I watch him on tape, he reminds me of Garrett Wilson. He reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Olave, Amon-Ra St. Brown, excuse me. Like, he reminds me of those kind of guys. He's got some Jalen Waddle in him as well in terms of the shiftiness, right? Like, he is a generational type wide receiver. And I think in a Zach Kitley offense where you've got competent quarterbacks that are at a high level in terms of it doesn't matter which way you go, whether it's Baron Morton, Jake Strong, or Will Hammond, you're going to have options to throw him the football, and all of those guys are capable of putting him in the proper position to succeed in a Zach Kitley offense. And I think you'd be looking at, Kiki QT type numbers the last time we've seen a wide receiver do what I think Micah Hudson could do on a potentially regular basis. Any news about the silent commits? That from Fernando. I'll be honest with you. I've heard some things, but that's not my place. I like these guys be able to have their moment and everything like that. So you'll never hear me try and ruin a recruit's moment or anything. They've worked too hard for that, and I think they deserve it. But yeah, no, there's some talented players waiting in the wing. I'll say that much. In what year does Texas Tech win the national championship? Well, in meat judging, probably next year. But I don't think that's what you're talking about, Adrian. I don't know, man. I think that they have it. I'll say this. If they continue what they're doing now in the new Big 12 and when you see the playoff expand, I think they have a chance to make the playoff. Obviously, a lot of things have to go your way when it comes down to it. I think that's just the nature of any team sport where you have to rely on each other, luck, and relying on each other and execution, right? But I think Texas Tech is in a good position in the Big 12 to be one of those teams year in and year out competing for the Big 12 title and having a chance to make the college football playoff, if that makes sense. Let's see. Is Casey Poe high on Tech? Yeah, he's in the Final Five. Texas Tech is for him. I know that he's gone on a couple unofficial visits, I believe, to Oklahoma and LSU this week before he heads out to Alabama. But he's set to make his decision, I believe, on July 12th, and Tech is thought to be one of the final teams there. And who knows, maybe a Micah Hudson commitment, if it happens before that, sways him one way or the other. I wouldn't put too much stock into that, but maybe it's possible. But yeah, Texas Tech is in the mix for him and will be in the discussion until his signing day or commitment date announcement, I believe on July 12th. I believe he tweeted that out. It's like July 11th, 12th, 13th, something like that. And he would obviously be big, and he would be the fourth star offensive lineman for Texas Tech in this class. If he was to come to Texas Tech, it'd be Poe, Hendricks, and then Davis. Those would be the 4-star offensive linemen for Texas Tech. This from T. Ferg. Would be pretty cool to see MH wearing number 5 jersey if he chooses Tech over the Longhorns. Yeah, I don't think anybody that good has ever worn number 5 or anything at the wide receiver position for Texas Tech, right? Like, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong or anything. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody do it. By the way, that's 100% sarcasm. Do not roast me in the comments for that. Jesus, that's sarcasm, people. Just letting you know. This from Roger. 19th is the best any Texas Tech recruiting class has ever finished in the rankings, and we're currently tied for that previous high. Yes. Yeah. I believe that happened in the Tuberville era with Jason Moro's class. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Roger. But yeah, no, I think when it's all said and done, it's not even a bold prediction anymore, I don't think. This will be the highest ranked recruiting class Texas Tech has ever had. And do it in year 2 of Joey McGuire is simply phenomenal, considering the first year was a top 25 class, top 27. If you look at either 24/7 or Rivals, I forgot which one they got pushed out of the top 25 in. Either way, what he has done in the first 2 years and the staff has done is mind-blowingly brilliant. And to have on-field success doing it, winning your 4 last games of the year, including your bowl game, people will come at you, only it's 8 wins, whatever. Listen, I think if we're being realistic about this, that is a monumental step for Texas Tech, considering the past 10 years of what they've gone through. And to do it in year 1 of Joey McGuire really shows the buy-in from these players and everything that we've talked about ad nauseum before. And now you're doing it on the recruiting trail. And really the biggest thing that we talked about when Joey McGuire got hired was the fact that, is he going to be able to recruit at a high level? That was the thing that I thought he would do the best at because of his ties to Texas high school football. And to see it come to fruition this fast, simply remarkable. This from Old Texas Tech Man. I believe Coach McGuire and staff will build a monster of a team. I agree with that. They're well on their way. This from Alex. I think he will. I'm pretty for sure he has a good relationship with one of the coaches at Tech. I hope he picks Tech, though. Yeah, he has a good relationship with everybody. He's been out and said that, hey, like he feels at home, like he can be himself, that he's not pressured to do anything in terms of off the field or act like another guy. Like he can just genuinely be himself. So I think that says a lot. This from Roy, MH, and Bradley seem to have a good connection too. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It could open so many doors for Tech. Yeah, I think that's a big relationship. I believe Bradley actually led the visit, was the host guy for the team for MH this past weekend on his visit. So big time stuff there. This from Roger as well. McGuire has been executing his plan brilliantly, blinding speed at the skill position and Haas's in the trenches. That has been and always will be a winning formula. Yep. If you build in the trenches, everything else is much easier to do. It's that simple. Agree on Poe, need elite offensive line commits. You got a couple of them. Danny, he said, did he say best recruit or best wide receiver recruit? I may have missed that. In terms of the state, he could potentially be the best recruit in the state of Texas in the 2024 class. That's not me saying that. That's just rankings. He has the potential to finish there. Again, there's some time for those rankings to fluctuate a little bit. This from David. Wear a black shirt if Hudson is committing to Tech. Damn. You got me. You got me there, David. You got me there. Yeah, you got me there for sure. Renee says he's watching from Alito, watching from Arizona. Appreciate it, Oscar. Danny says Texas Tech will get Hudson. There are too many factors pulled into that. It's a win for the program. Yeah, it's a monumental win for the program. It's an historic type of potential commitment for Texas Tech. It would really, really, I think it would propel Texas Tech recruiting even to a higher standard. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm keeping up with the subs here, people. Let's see how many more subs we have before we get here. All right, we've got a couple, got a handful. We've got a handful more. Got some people on, apparently some UT fans are in the comments of another video of mine right now. This guy's blowing up a couple of my videos. I'm not mad at it, though. Let's see. This from Matt. Did y'all see how Longhorns fans were talking to Micah Hudson? If he has any self-respect, he wouldn't go there, in my opinion. Listen, I don't mean to be that guy, but that's every fan base to some extent. It's a small percentage of every fan base, right? Like, no fan base is perfect. There's always a few bad apples in every fan base. It's just the truth of it. Yeah, it sucks that there's people like that out there, but it is what it is when it comes down to it. Let's see. Roger says both of those badass offensive linemen never joined Texas Tech if not for their loyalty to Coach Kitley. Absolutely. Big time. Yo, RC, who is your all-time favorite Tech player and also favorite current player? Thanks. Ooh, all-time favorite. The first year I was ever a credential media member at Texas Tech, Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback. Got to interview him before he went off to the NFL. So that's the easy answer. But if I'm being honest about outside of like quarterback, probably DeAndre Washington. Had a class with him while I was at Tech. Just super good, genuine dude, and also kick some ass on the football field. Favorite current player on the roster? I won't say that my favorite player on the roster, but I will say the guy that I'm most interested to watch this year, and that is CJ Baskerville. Watch out for him in the Tech secondary. I think he's going to be really, really good. Danny says TCU lost too much this year to be a contender realistically. I think when it comes down to it, if they have a solid quarterback, they'll be all right. They did pretty damn good in the transfer portal. This from Roger. Kansas State was 70th in D1 football last year in roster talent. Only 3 4-stars on the entire roster, the coaching staff. The coach, that is coaching and developing talent, baby. Yeah, no, and they're really good at it. And by the way, I think they might have the best quarterback in the Big 12 in Will Howard. Don't shoot the messenger. Dude is electric. OU's football schedule is really weak. Yeah, so is Oklahoma State's when it's all said and done. Joey is changing the culture. Salt of Earth said, let's not forget about Jarrett Stidham. Let's actually thank Jarrett Stidham, because if you get Jarrett Stidham, you probably don't have number 15 that's wearing that Kansas City Chiefs red. Just saying. By the way, you almost had Kyler Murray earlier. But this from Roger as well. RC, you are correct. The class of 2011 with Jason Morrow and Jakeem Grant wrapped up at number 19. Yeah. One of the few things Tuberville did right, if we're being honest about it, at Texas Tech. Lord knows he didn't stay there for lunches too long, if you know what I mean. This from Danny. Dad went to Tech, hired MH favorite coach. Girlfriend is going to Tech. McGuire has built a great relationship and stayed on it. 5, prioritized this must-win recruit with the NIL, most likely. Yeah, Texas Tech has done multiple things as you've listed, right? Correct when it comes down to the recruiting process of Micah Hudson, like simple and plain. And people aren't going to like to hear it, but Texas has too, right? Like there's a reason that these two schools have risen to the surface when it comes to who will get the commitment of Micah Hudson. And again, I think Tech is in the lead right now. And in fact, I think that's probably, if you ask me today, June 22nd, where do I think he ends up playing? It's Texas Tech. But new information could come out, and I think he could end up at Texas. But again, that's the nature of this. I think it's going to come down to the 11th hour and 59th minute with this guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you should have faith, and there's no reason that you shouldn't have faith in Joey McGuire and crew for keeping up this recruitment until that date is done. But it's going to be interesting. This from T. Ferg, RC, for keeping it real on all the shout outs and questions and comments. Appreciate you tuning in for sure. This from John Lewis. TCU will be fine. Their depth was a reason they were good last year. One of the reasons. Yeah, I mean, and they went into the portal and they got some really good players. I mean, JoJo Earl is going to be one of the best wide receivers in the Big 12. They've got some dudes over there. It really comes down to the quarterback play for them. And remember, last year, their quarterback got hurt, right? Like, they were supposed to have a completely different quarterback. Obviously, it worked out pretty well for him and Max Duggan. But Max Duggan was the backup. And they had Morris that was starting. And they had to bring in Duggan for injury reasons. And there you go. Rest was history. Matt Mendez, is Texas Tech ready for Oregon? Yeah. I'll say this. If you had to ask me right now, hey, what does the preseason top 25 look like? I'd probably say Oregon is in that 7 to 10 range. Probably 8 feels right. 8, 9 feels right. For Texas Tech, I think they're probably going to be in that 18 to 22 range. If I had to guess, probably 21 feels right. So we're talking about a top 25 matchup. I think everybody knows that. But, when it all comes down to it, I think that you're the home team, right? Like Texas Tech is going to be the home team. It's going to be in prime time. There's going to be a lot of emotions there. That is a big time game for Texas Tech. I think you're going to see the best of Tyler Shuck that night playing against his old school. So yeah, I think Texas Tech is more than ready for Oregon. Now, if we're just looking at this from a, hey, like who's more talented on paper star wise? I mean, Oregon clearly, but that's not what wins the game right now. And I think Texas Tech, this Texas Tech team in Oregon are closer than people think when it comes down to it in terms of like where they are in the top 25. A couple more questions and then we'll wrap this up. Got Roger here saying Texas Tech finished last season number 23 in the metric ratings, and Coach McGuire feel we are much improved. Bring it on, Ducks. Yeah. Lubbock, night game, we are ready. Question should be, are they ready? I think that's fair too. This from Danny. Surprising to see some big name recruits committing to Oregon, excited to play San Diego State on Apple TV. Maybe this is a hot take. And Lyle and I are going to talk about this on the upcoming podcast about the Big 12 and who they think comes in, or who we think comes in. I don't think it's out of the question. Like, do I think it's the most likely scenario? No, what I'm about to say. But I don't think it's out of the question that Oregon and Washington join the Big 12. Like, do I think it's likely? No, but I don't think it's out of the question, if that makes sense. And I think that would be an absolute home run for Texas Tech, or not Texas Tech, well, Texas Tech in the Big 12 as a whole. Let's see, this from Alex. So since construction is still underway until 2024, what will it look like? Like where to put the student section and stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm not sure on the student sections. They haven't announced that yet. But the opposing teams will have makeshift locker rooms and trailers outside Jones AT&T Stadium. So another advantage for Texas Tech on that front. But yeah, that's what we know so far in terms of what's going down there. The Tech locker room, Tech will have their locker room and everything. But that's kind of where it currently stands right now. The visiting aspect of stuff will not be completed until 2024, and some other stuff in terms of suites and everything. But the student section, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, it might just be one of those seasons where they just have the lower aspect for the student section, and that's it. Maybe they put them up a little higher on the video board side of things. That would be my guess. This from Roy. When does the actual preseason top 25 come out? That should be about 2.5 weeks before the season starts. So August 20-ish. From Roger, Oregon's roster is loaded with 4-star and 5-star talent. They are just underachievers. We've got this. Yeah, it'll be fun to watch Bo Nix and Tyler Shuck go at it, though. One of the premier quarterback matchups of the entire college football season. Not a hyperbole, legitimate fact on that front. This from Renee. Tech hasn't been ready for a night game at home recently. Big win versus a down OU team last year was hopefully the turnaround. Here's the thing. I think that Texas Tech, obviously that Baylor game comes to mind when Patty was inducted into the Ring of Honor, but that game just screams to me Texas Tech is going to play arguably the best game we can possibly see them play because it means a shit ton to that program. You're on national television. You're going to come out there and you're going to be behind the guy that is your leader of your football team and Tyler Shuck. You're going to absolutely come out there and execute, dot all your T's or cross all your T's, dot all your I's, whatever you want to say about it, right? Like, I firmly expect that to be one of those games where we look at, and if we're talking about Texas Tech 9-3, 10-2 at the end of the year, that's the game we look at where it's like, we knew what was up. The national media may be behind it, but that's when we knew Texas Tech was all kinds of freaking legit. All right, this will be the last one here. Roger, another plus is TCU rise last year. Texas Tech chances of winning the Big 12 is incompetence of Sark and Venables in Austin and with Oklahoma. Yeah, I think they're both good teams, though. Like I said, I think there's probably 4 or 5 legitimate teams that could win the Big 12. I think K-State's got to be up there, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and then probably TCU or Baylor. One of those 2 teams will step up. But again, I'm RC Maxfield. Be sure to like the video. Subscribe if you want more Texas Tech daily videos. I'm going to start doing a little bit more of these lives once we get closer to the season and everything building up, and there will be a weekly live every week during the football season. So be on the lookout for that. And then also be on the lookout on Twitter if you haven't followed me over there for an announcement of a guest on the podcast who may be close to the situation when it comes to Texas Tech men's basketball and that tournament that they're hosting out there, maybe the basketball tournament. So be on the lookout for that. Again, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be sure to like the video as well. Leave your comment. Comment MH if you think Micah Hudson will commit to Texas Tech. Do you think Texas Tech will land the commitment of Micah Hudson? I'm going to wrap it up. There you go, guys. I appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in to all the content that I've been putting out recently. It's been a hell of a week. I'm going to go enjoy myself, eat some Chick-fil-A, and maybe drink some cervezas. I am RC Maxfield reminding you, if you want the latest Texas Tech football news, rumors all year long, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.